Biologicals. We work a lot with different, conventional organic dairies, organic farms, conventional farms.
Okay, good
evening. Field care.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ruth Charles. I am from the League of Women Voters for Winona County, and I am your moderator for this candidate forum tonight. This is our 2023 forum co-sponsor for tonight, the St. Charles Concerned Citizen Group. And we are providing this forum in person, but we are also taping for future transmission. We welcome the general public who are here, and thank you. It's a great crowd that's here. We welcome you guys who are in attendance, and we thank the City of St. Charles for allowing us to hold this educational forum in the City Hall, and the use of the staff and the technical assistance for this forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to become educated and to participate in the government. While we as a league do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties, candidates, or tell voters how to answer referendum questions. We will read statements from candidates who are unable to attend this forum, but they all came tonight, so thank you. For our current audience, please write down any questions you might have for the candidates. A volunteer will take your written question and give it to the question facilitator. This evening, we welcome the primary candidates for the Winona County Commissioner 3 District Special Election, Josh Elsing, Pat Heim, and Bill Spitzer. This forum is intended to provide voters with information so they can make an educated choice on the ballot. The views expressed in this educational forum are those of the candidates. The League of Women Voters Winona participation policy and ground rules were provided to the candidates with their invitation to attend. Some simple rules from it is this is a taped cable TV broadcast, and we will post the broadcast on the League of Women Voters Winona Facebook page within the week of this forum. This forum is taped, may not be edited, and must be broadcast in its entirety in accord with all FCC regulations. The public is invited to submit questions for the candidates through the League of Women Voters email site on its Facebook page, and questions are also being submitted tonight. Question facilitators from the League of Women Voters and our co-sponsor will view the questions, and the League of Women Voters moderator has final selection of the questions to the candidates. The League will try to determine the questions to be asked, and attempts in good faith will be made to cover all areas of interest expressed in advance of the forum by the public. The candidates will not know the questions in advance. Questions that are hostile, partisan, embarrassing, inappropriate, or of a personal nature will not be asked. Questions on similar topics may be grouped. All questions will become the property of the League of Women Voters. Tonight, our timekeeper is Lori Ortega. Candidates will strictly observe the time limits on responses. The timekeeper will hold up cards to indicate what time is about to expire. Once the stop card is displayed, the candidate will stop at the end of the current sentence. The opening statement will be 2 minutes. Question response will be 1 minute. And the closing statement will be 1 minute. So again, the candidates with us today who are running for the primary election for the Winona County Commissioner 3rd District Special Election are Josh Elsing, Pat Heim, and Bill Spitzer. And the candidates have allowed me to address them by their first name. And we would like to begin with the opening statements, and our first speaker will be Josh. We'll go this way, and just so you know, as we go further, the questions will then rotate. I have a response tracking grid, and it'll go in a rotation as we go from there. But we'll start first with you, Josh.
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. I just want to thank everybody to come out tonight. What a great opportunity to get together. So for those, I know most of the faces in this room, so that's really good. It'd be nice to see a few more, though. We need to see more people get involved in local politics. But I am very appreciative for everybody that came. So for those that don't know, my name is Josh Elsing. I actually reside right here in St. Charles. I've been here for going on about 6 years. Formerly, I was in Altura for about 17 years, and prior to that, I was in Lewiston. So I am a Lewiston-Altura graduate. I did go to college for several different things and ultimately ended up in the ag field. I currently have a ag wholesale and retail business right here in St. Charles. I've been in the ag industry my entire life. We also own several property businesses, so we do know what it's like to pay our wonderful property taxes throughout the county. I am married. My wife is in the back, Leah. We have 3 grown children. They are all either in college or pursuing or in their careers as we speak, including my youngest, and he actually works for the company that I own. So I've been involved with, I guess, local government for a number of years. I got in kind of just by happenstance. I lived in Altura. Somebody asked, hey, we have an open position on the Planning and Zoning Board. We think you would do well. You understand property, you understand, different things like that. And Altura is a very ag-based community. And being in ag, they said, we think you'd fit. So not knowing a whole lot about planning and zoning, I went ahead and jumped on it. Lo and behold, I somehow ended up being the mayor in Altura for 2 terms. So apparently, and ran contested both times. And you figure out in a hurry that 30% of the population won't vote for you, because both times it was 70-30. So it was interesting. But from there, when we moved over to St. Charles, I was asked to run for the Soil and Water Conservation District Board. And so it was an honor to get elected onto that. I've been on that for 2 terms now. I also sit as treasurer for 7 years. With that, I also sit on the Whitewater. Oh, you're at stock. That was a fast 2 minutes.
Next will be Pat Hyde.
First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters, concerned citizens of St. Charles and Winona County here having this tonight. Again, my name is Pat Heim. My wife is Wendy. I've got 2 kids, Taylor and Bryce. I've got 2 grandsons, Huxley and DJ. I was born and raised on a century farm just northeast of St. Charles, where I dairy farmed, crop farmed. I did that, my whole beginning of my life. Later on, I went into the real estate careers, which, now it's just repeat business is what I do. So I'm looking to devote my time here to the citizens of Winona County and be a voice for them. My great-grandfather was a county commissioner. My grandfather was on the planning and zoning. My father, Anthony Jerry Heim, served numerous terms for Winona County as a county commissioner. I'm running my campaign here for the family farms, keeping them going, keeping our cities going, preserving our natural resources. I mean, we need to figure out where some of these issues are coming from. Everybody likes to point the fingers, but we need to get to the root of where these problems are coming from out there. Our roads, we need to take care of our roads. They're so far behind. You go to any of these other counties, just drive around, take a look, take some pictures. Compare Wabasha, Wisconsin, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're gonna see the quality in the roads out there, the difference. I don't know if it's the aggregates and things we're using. And I wanna bring common sense to Winona County. We need that. And, our taxes, I wanna make sure, they're under control, make sure they're getting regulated, make sure people aren't getting overtaxed. Certain aspects are, and a lot of these farmers are looking for alternatives, because they are getting, their taxes went up again this year because of the high tax, because of the farm sales, So, I mean, that's where I'm, running, but definitely, we have a lot of issues. We need to, get the common sense, and we need to basically work with our other county commissioners in Winona down there and work together. It's a give and take. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bill Spitzer?
I gotta put these on, so otherwise I can't read some of my things, sorry about that. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the St. Charles area citizens for having this forum, because I think it's very important for us to have an opportunity to greet the members of the public and to give them an informed decision that they're gonna make on November 9th for the primary. Most of you may know you. I recognize a lot of faces out there. My name is Bill Spitzer. I was born and raised in St. Charles, actually. In the early days, my parents are William and Jane Spitzer. Some of you may not have known this, but my father, my actual father, my birth father, Bill, was actually killed not too far from here. But my mom married another Spitzer, so that made me retain my name. So that's kind of cool. So my stepfather is Richard, and he moved to Rochester with our family. And started a career in Rochester. So I did most of my growing up in Rochester, Minnesota. But I just couldn't stay away from St. Charles, as some of you know, that I became back to St. Charles. And that's where I got my first job. I got my law enforcement degree from Rochester Community College. Got my first law enforcement career in St. Charles with the St. Charles Police Department, and eventually ended with the Winona County Sheriff's Office in 2014. Married to my lovely wife, who is also in the audience since 1984. I get that right, I hope. Have two grown children, Laura and Nick, and just added a grandchild, Ella. Very proud of her, and also have two grandsons. One is Keegan, who is also here supporting me tonight, so I really appreciate that. And also my new grandson, Mason. Like I said, we reside here, and we have resided here since 1986, and are members of the St. Charles Borromeo Catholic Church. One of the things that I think is really important is community involvement, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about community involvement because I think that's one of the keys to the position of being a county commissioner. So I look forward to the questions this evening and talking a little bit more about my community involvement. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. We're now ready for our first audience question, and the first question will go to Bill Spitzer. We'll start with you. What do you believe are the top 3 issues facing the county board? How do you plan to address them?
Great question, and I had an opportunity to meet with county officials, both the chair of the county board and also the county administrator, just to kind of gauge, what are some of the important things. And one of the things, of course, is the levy, to make sure that we keep an affordable levy in our communities throughout Winona County, especially, of course, the District 3, who I would obviously favor. But that is important. The second one is preserving our natural resources. That is very important. Water is something that is not renewable. I mean, once it's polluted, we can't get that back. And then the other one that was mentioned was mental health issues. And how are we going to address those mental health issues within our county with the limited resources that we have? So those are the top 3, and those are kind of what I would do about it.
Thank you. Next will be Pat. Hi.
My top 3 are basically, it comes to first one is natural resources. We need to, start preserving our natural resources. If we don't take care of them now, it's not too late, but, we're not going to have them for our future generations. We just aren't. I mean, we can only dig deeper for our water. Eventually, we're going to have to put alternative systems in. I mean, that's what it's coming down to. Next, I have our roads. I mean, our road quality here, we need to take care of them. I mean, if you drive around, they are so far behind. Like you said, we want to blame trucks and tractors, but, it's not just that. We need to figure out, is there something different we can do to upgrade those? And then the taxes, we need to get those so everybody's playing on the same level field here with our taxes out there. People aren't paying more than they should, so get that all reassessed, and that would be good. And, like there again, it's just, those are my top 3.
Thank you. And Josh.
Sure. Well, it's hard to narrow it down to 3. I think we got a lot of things going on. There's a few things that I agree with the other 2 gentlemen here. Infrastructure is a big thing. We've got a lot of issues going on with the roads. I think there's a good plan put into place. I attend a lot of the Road and Bridge Committee meetings. I haven't missed one I might have missed 1 or 2 in the last month, or in the last 6 months. But there is a good plan put into place, but it's heavily laden on what the next omnibus bill coming into place is, and there's a big difference between what the governor and what the Senate does. So we're going to see how that affects, and right now a lot of the funding is going to go to large cities and townships. So it kind of leaves the counties high and dry. The next one I would say would be really the balance between rural and our urban population. There seems to be some strife, and we see that growing and growing. And we need to really figure out how to balance that out and bringing that continuity to the county board. And last would be really protecting our small businesses and our small communities. We're watching them dry up, and we need to do something and help these communities out and make sure that we don't end up so centric around Winona.
All right. Our next question, and we'll start with Pat for this one. And it's long, so if you want me to repeat it. How would you navigate the larger animal unit farm expansions and the lack of interest in agricultural buffer zones to control runoff in light of the continuing evidence of groundwater and well contamination, as well as fish kills in the streams and tributaries?
Well, first of all, we have our animal cap units that are out there. Those have been in place for quite some time. You know, we really don't have too many farmers, maybe one in the area that maybe wants to push that limit for more animal units, but other than that, you know, animal units is set in place. You know, they're bringing different things. Lewison here is looking at a manure digester to handle some of the manure. You know, there's a lot of things people are bringing to communities to try to take care of the manure that's causing this runoff. Is it a good thing or bad thing? It's too early in the process to even figure out what's happening with that. But definitely, we need to basically get our road right-of-ways back. As you can see, these farmers are farming right up to the roads. They're not having the road right-of-way for the water to go. We need to get these bigger farmers. A lot of them do a great job, but a lot of them don't have waterways. They farm right through them and we get a lot of erosion. So I mean, definitely, and you know, the water out there that's coming off some of these dairies, you know, we need to basically, we have policies and stuff in place. We need to basically regulate those, and people need to get out there and regulate them from the county.
Thank you. Next will be Josh.
Okay, so I heard three, could you repeat it? Because I heard three, there's really three questions in
I
that
know.
question.
Yeah, there's
So
a lot
I heard
to it.
animal, cat, buffers, and fish gill,
How
correct?
would you navigate the larger animal unit farm expansions and the lack of interest in agricultural buffer zones to control runoff?
Two.
In light of the continuing evidence of groundwater and well contamination, as well as fish kills in streams and tributaries?
Perfect. Welcome to the Whitewater Joint Power Board and the SWCD for the last 10 years. That is exactly what we deal with on a monthly basis. That is what we constantly deal with. And I am a huge advocate of education over regulation. And as we see duismas come into play and we begin to see structured land management come into play, it is essential for regulation, or it is a setup for regulation. So we heavily encourage all throughout, not just this state, in my company, in going to the Capitol, talking with our legislators, is saying we need time to adjust. Let's educate. Let's educate before we begin to regulate. The buffers was the first regulation, and I kept telling all the farmers, this is an easy one. Guys, this is easy. I know it's horrible, but it's easy. And if we don't continue to do a better job at land management, we're going to see more of this regulation, which ultimately can potentially lead to some of the other things we do. I'll address the animal cap real quick. That is a long-term outlook, and we have to understand how dairies operate different than cash croppers.
Thank you. Finally, Bill Spitzer.
So that's a very, very tough question, and I know that there's been a lot of talk, and I know there's been a lot of information shared. I guess one of the things I really wanted to make sure people realize about myself, and that is the family farm is really important. We want to make sure we retain the integrity of the family farm. Family farms are something that have been disappearing for a long time, and we want to make sure we preserve those as best that we possibly can. As far as the animal units, I think Winona County has established what those are, and they have put those caps on. We have to wait, unfortunately, for a decision from our courts to decide, you know, where those are going to end up. But those are something that we will look at. And as far as environmental, you know, we're so fragile, and we're hopeful that the farmers are going to have that knowledge, because they are the stewards of our environment, and they are the stewards of our precious resource called water. So I think that's very important that we listen to you know, what they have in mind for us.
Thank you. Our next question, and Bill, will start with you with this one. What experience do you have serving on board, management committees, or other governing boards?
So one of the things that I bring is my experience to the position, and as mayor of St. Charles for 10 years, I had an opportunity to gain a lot of that experience of leading not only the city council, but also taking part in a lot of community boards. And I think that's so important to have that community input. And I think that's how we gain a lot of knowledge. And over the years, I've served on a number of different boards, from the Cable Commission as it started. We don't have that anymore, to the EDA that I currently serve as the chair. So I think it's very important that you serve on a number of different boards. And one of the things that I think I value the most is being involved in the community. And I think that's very important for your commissioner as well, is to make sure that you continually get that pulse on the community that you represent and continue to serve on a number of different boards. And one of those things that I think I've proven over the years is serving on a number of different boards.
Thank you. Next will be Pat Heim.
You know, as far as serving on boards, realistically, you know, I haven't served on a lot of boards. I'm on the St. Charles City Planning and Zoning for the city of St. Charles here, you know, which I've been on probably 6 months to a year. You know, we're finally getting established as a board. You know, a lot of people have questions, concerns, and want to, you know, why did we do this, why did we do that? But a lot of people, more people need to get involved. Myself needs to get more involved. I mean, I'm involved in the community. I do a lot of volunteering and a lot of stuff of that sort. But as far as your actual boards, you know, I'm only on the city planning and zoning, and, you know, we're finally getting to where we can actually have a quorum and, you know, get people to make the decisions for the town. Otherwise, there's lots of times where people won't get involved, so.
Thank you. Josh?
Yeah, boy, boards. Yeah, the ironic, they're kind of the amazing thing is just the same as running for county commissioner. I don't know if I've ever actually willingly signed up for one without somebody asking me to be on one. And I guess that's a humbling experience. I don't say that in a conceited way. And I'm very fortunate to have sat on a lot of different boards. I currently sit, again, as treasurer and elected for the Saltwater Conservation District Board for the county. Planning and Zoning Commission, twice elected mayor, city of Altura. Currently WINLAC, Winona County Ag Advisory Board. I chair the Whitewater Joint Power Board, which is a coalition of the Wabasha, Olmsted, and Winona County commissioners and SWCD officers. I've sat on multiple boards of directors for different companies, both nationwide and locally. Obviously run 3 different companies myself that I own. I'm not sure, the list kind of goes on, I apologize, but that's a handful of them, I guess, so.
Thank you. All right, well, we're moving on to question 4. Try and breathe a little because it gets bad. All right, so question number 4, and we'll start with you, Josh, on this one. In a time of increasing costs and decreased state funding, how could the county save or get the most for their money with dealing with county roads?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and, you know, attending there's only usually a few of us that attend the road and bridge meetings, but, you know, it is a difficult thing, and the tax base, you know, the levy being, it is a tough thing, and so a lot of that's going to come from state funding, and that's a difficult thing to go over in a minute, but your CASA is a lot of your funding, and that's what gets passed down, and it's really heavily laden upon how we get that funding from the state and how they see where it needs to go. And 30 seconds. So to give you kind of a brief understanding of how this works, currently in the government right now, the governor is proposing $200 million. The Senate is at $697 million, and the legislation is at $617. That is additional funding for what they want to give on top of the normal CASA, which is our funding. And I believe it's a ploy to be fall halfway in the middle, and it doesn't actually meet the inflationary factor that we're at. And if you look at the inflationary factor that's assigned to our county right now, it's 0.8, and we know inflation is much higher than that. So we're looking at trying to figure out where to go, and those are the actual numbers.
Thank you. Next will be Bill.
So that was one of the topics, of course, that I wanted to make sure that I knew a lot about, because I did hear that, you know, we have some concerns about the roads and bridges in our area. And just reviewing the county's plan, 11 roads in our district are rated as fair or poor. And of those 11, only 2 of them are scheduled for repairs. So this is an issue that we really have to look at. And I think the biggest thing is to try to find other ways to handle these projects. I learned that half of the project is done by our county employees, and the other half is done by a contracted organization. So one of the ways that we might be able to stretch that is contract everything, because when you bid things out, sometimes you can get those done cheaper than what your actual employees can do that for. So I think that's one of the options that I would really like to explore, and that was one of the options I think that was presented to our county board as well, is that this is an option that we could do it. And the other thing that the advantage is sometimes you can get more projects done in a year than we're currently getting done. So I think that might be the option that I would explore.
Thank you. And Pat.
Well, as you know, our roads are behind, and there's some of the things that could offset it. I know we don't get enough tax dollars coming down. We just don't. Our townships, our counties, we just not get enough for our roads that are out there. But we could do a lot of things to preserve them. Go back to the road right away, mow it once a year versus more numerous times. We could save money there. I think we only need to do it in the fall, we don't need to mow as far out, keep that buffer zone there so we're not getting the erosion, help for the migrating birds back and forth for the nesting areas in our ditches. That's what it was designed for years ago, and some of them you can't mow. Other than that, our usage on the roads, regulate a little bit more. We got a lot of trucks going up and down. You know what? They need the trucks, we need the traffic for this, to get the grains in and out, the sands, the manures, everything needs to move. But maybe we need to have select roads, that they can travel on, or build other roads up to that point to help, direct the traffic onto the tonnage roads versus some of these county roads that just can't handle the weight.
Thank you. All right, and Pat, we'll start with you for this next question. Good communication skills are one quality of a good county commissioner. What do you consider to be the most challenging aspect when dealing with the public? How do you personally handle challenging situations?
Well, actually, I thrive on challenging situations. What I like to do is take a situation, listen to people, listen to both sides, and give an answer that basically I believe and I stand behind. Communication, I've been a realtor for 20-some years. Communication from the beginning of the file to the end, to the water test, to the you name the testing we're going to do. It just, from the foundations to the septics, I'm there the whole step of the way from the beginning of the process throughout. And we need to communicate between commissioners. I mean, we're lacking there. We got to get along, and we might get more things done and work together. If the county commissioners would all work together, it's a give and take. You're not going to get everything you want as being a commissioner, but you know what? You're going to give and take, and everybody, is going to get a few of the things that are on their bucket list. But it's communications is a big key.
Thank you. And next will be Josh. Do you want me to read it again?
No,
Okay.
no, it's perfectly fine. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, that's one of the challenging things, and whether it's in politics, employees, business, communication is key, and it's really the difference between making relationships and being able to overcome differences. And it's a challenging aspect that I learned over multiple years being in government, because you have to stand firm in the stance in which you believe in, but you also have to take the time to hear the other person's side. And, Tim right here is a great example of him and I have had some long, long conversations, and at the end still shook hands. And I think that is key to do what we do, whether you disagree or not. And the aspect that I see is bringing continuity at the end of it all. And I'm laughing because Tim's laughing. And bringing continuity to the end of it, and that's really what it's really all about. And that communication is key. It's right in my handout that I have, is being able to talk within government. So.
Yeah. And Bill?
Would you mind just
Yep.
reading it again?
Good communication skills is one quality of a good county commissioner. What do you consider to be the most challenging aspect when dealing with the public? How do you personally handle challenging situations?
Well, for 31 years in law enforcement, I dealt with a challenging moment or two. It always brings me back to a time when I went to this call in Rolling Stone, and I think it's a great lesson that I can share here, and that was it's a property line dispute. And for those of you that are ever a property line dispute, you know what I'm talking about. There's not a lot law enforcement can do about it. And I knew that, and I was an old guy in the department, and I knew that going in, so I was a little frustrated. And I got there, and the farmer goes, I know that you can't do anything, Bill. I just wanted somebody to listen. And I think that's the key to communication, is just listening to the other person. And I think that if you just step back and start listening to other people, the communication develops. And I think that's very important for us to do. And sometimes we just have to stop talking and listen to everybody that's involved in. And bringing everybody together, I think, is so important in listening to all points of view.
Thank you. All right, and our next question, and Bill, will start with you on this one. Many wells in western Winona County are contaminated with nitrates. What is the county board's role in making sure citizens have safe drinking water?
You know, I think safe drinking water is something that is very important. And I think that we just have to look at ways that we can control or regulate the discharge of these chemicals into our water. And I think that we have to work with our farmers because they are the stewards of the land. They know they're not going to want to pollute the water either because they need the water as well. So I think education is probably the key in this and making sure that you know, everybody's following the same rules. And I think that if we have farmers that are not following those rules, those farmers need to be educated in why it's so important to protect that natural resource. So I just think that we really need to you know, look at the rules that we have in place and making sure everybody's abiding by those to make sure that we have that safe resource or that viable resource of water.
Thank you. Pat?
Well, when it comes down to wells, you know, it's a big issue out there, and there's kind of a big divide, and, you know, people are blaming back and forth, but we honestly don't know where the problem's coming from. A lot of people want to blame the farmers. Is it the manure? Is it, you know, where's it coming from? Is it the chemicals? Is it people in town spreading fertilizers on their lawn? You know, most times people put fertilizer just before it rains. The problem of it is that the county got away from testing, you know, requiring testing, giving the free tests that were available. They don't do that no more. We need to start doing the testing out there to figure this problem, find the root of it, and find exactly where it's coming from versus pointing the finger at the town versus the farmers, whoever. It just needs to get figured out, and we need some, you know, regulations on it. Like I said, I mean, once our natural resource is gone, we're not getting it back. I mean, it's just the way it is, you know. So, I mean, definitely we would need to get a lot of testing done, and I don't think it's asking for a lot because, you know, the county, when they're building a new house, they require you to put a well in and make sure it meets standards. I think they should regulate thereon after it's put in place.
Thank you. And Josh?
Steve?
Up to you.
I'm going to take a little more factual approach to this. So actually the county does do, and it's actually through some different grants and initiatives through the state, Bowser, a few other places where we actually do well nitrate testing. There was one here just not that long ago. A lot of that, just talk to your local SWCD, you can get involved with that. The factual side of this is, and Pat alluded to this, is that we don't actually know where this nitrate problem is coming from, and it comes from a multitude of different things, and there's been a lot of nitrates in the water for many, many years. We know it's getting worse though, so how do we fix that? Utica's dealing with a situation having to drill a new hole, drill a new well. Altera's faced with the same situation. When I was mayor there, we had to start looking at these things. The reality of it is right now currently in Elgin, Altera, and Utica, there's DeWismas. And DeWismas are the after effects of well nitrate testing, and that's a combined area that a group of farmers and landowners put in together best management practices. And the idea of the best management practices is to try to help alleviate some of that nitrate runoff into our groundwater. And so those practices are actually put into place, and it's the beginning side of trying to, and hopefully, working with the landowners to work with this problem.
Thank you. Our next question, which is number 7, and Josh, we'll start with you.
Sure.
And what is your experience with preparing or authorizing budgets?
Just start a business and you'll find out really, really fast. Have some employees, you know, run a few boards. I mean, it is the mainstay to keep a small business open. And the struggles that we have dealing with the large competitors, and it is it's a big deal in a multitude of different areas. But at the same time, capitalism is great, and the ability to just open up our doors without the government being able to tell us what to do is wonderful. But to do that, you got to have a sharp pencil. And I've run all the businesses, and if anybody ever knows me on a board, I'm usually the money guy. I'm usually the one checking every little thing and making sure everything's correct, because it's our taxpayers' money. It's my money, it's y'all's money, and we need to make sure that we're good stewards of that. So the budget aspect is something I live and breathe every day, right down to keeping the doors open to multiple businesses that I own. And it's something that's why typically I'm usually the treasurer on most of the boards, and occasionally I'm the chair. So I actually made my stop time this time.
Great. Phil, this is to you now.
So one of the things that I've always enjoyed doing is that's working with budgets. And I got a lot of experience when I was the mayor of St. Charles, 10 years of working with a $7 million budget and working with other people's money. And I think that's really important because you are the steward of others' money, and you have to make sure that you're spending it wisely and making sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. And I think that's so important for a county commissioner to realize that as well, is that it's your money that we're looking to spend, and it's important that you be that steward. In addition to being the mayor, I also had an opportunity to work as a grant administrator for the last 7 years over in Austin, and that was a $1.6 million budget. And again, we're dealing with other people's money, and you got to make sure that you are spending it wisely and making sure that you can get the most that you possibly can for that dollar. And that's the same thing that I would do as your commissioner, is just to make sure that we're getting that value. Going back to the roads and bridges, making sure that we get those roads and bridges repaired and fixed on a timely basis with the money that we have.
And Pat?
When it comes to budgets, I've dealt with budgets my whole life. I started out young, took over the family farm, milked cows. You had to be on a tight budget. You didn't have room for error. We milked 3 times a day, did it all myself. You didn't have help. You went on vacation, it was short-lived because you need to be there taking care of everything you had. In real estate, there's no room for error. When you're basically from the start of the transaction to the end, you're looking at all the numbers, making sure that at the end, every dime is accounted for. Everybody's taken care of, everybody's paid, taxes are paid, everybody's on the same thing. I run crew of guys, Cornerstone Builders, we run crew of guys. You got to make sure from the start of that project to the end of that project, you're basically making sure all the numbers come out where you bid the job at, making sure the guys are coming to work, running a strict budget. There's no room for error. Just like everybody in town here, we can't, rely on corporate. We got to take care of ourselves. In these smaller communities, work together, support one another in these smaller communities, and it just, I'm done, sorry.
Thank you. All right, and we're going to start with you again, Pat, for the next question. And this question is about housing. Do you believe that the county and our district can and should play a role in providing affordable rental and homeowner opportunities using subsidies and rent control, as well as first-time grants, lending assistance, and interest mortgage options?
Well, as you know, housing is becoming big in a lot of these communities surrounding St. Charles. St. Charles has a lot of good things going for us. We have Homes for Habitat that's coming out and giving us some affordable housing. As planning and zoning, we just talked with different outfits, how can we attract different people to come to St. Charles here. So we did change some of our zoning regulations to, allow different size units on certain parts of town here to attract them. We needed some affordable housing. Not everybody can afford a house. A lot of people are getting on a fixed income, and we're trying to make those right steps and as far as the community here. So just with everybody working together, and achieving that, and like I said, this project will be great for the community here, this Homes for Habitat, and I think people need, once it gets up and started, to go out there, volunteer, help out, let's keep that project moving forward, and and hopefully we can attract as a city and county here some affordable housing.
Thank you. And next is Josh.
Sure. I'm going to put a little spin on this. I'm a firm believer that a strong economy lessens the need for subsidizing. And the stronger we can make our communities, especially in our bedroom communities where we have a lot of people that are just commuting to and from, if we can build these communities back up, if we can provide jobs, keep the businesses going, keep the farms going, keep these things going, we have less need for taxpayer help. We have a strong economy. And so if we start there and keep the cart behind the horse and keep these communities strong, we have less need for these things. But we're always going to have it to some extent. So we have to make sure that affordable housing exists. Now, rent control is really indicative of the cost of real estate and what our tax base is against that real estate. As taxes goes up, so does the rent. We have to pass it on. So at the end of the day, it still comes back to the stronger we can make Winona County, the less need we have for these social programs. And where we have a need for them, we have to take a look at that and find out what the best case scenario is to help support them.
Thank you. And Bill?
Would you mind reading it again,
Nope,
please?
I'll read it again. Do you believe that a county in our district can and should play a role in providing affordable rental and homeowner opportunities using subsidies and rent control, as well as first-time grants, lending assistance, and interest mortgage options?
Interesting question. I think that's something that has plagued our region for a long time. I had an opportunity to be a part of a study in southeastern Minnesota, and workforce housing, which is a little bit different than affordable housing, is something that's in dire need right now. Because you have a lot of individuals that just don't make even hardly minimum wage, and they still need an affordable place to call home. So, you know, I think we have to figure out ways that we can create those opportunities in our communities within Winona County to find ways that we can create those workforce housing. And I know one of the things that we are doing on our EDA here in St. Charles is we're trying to find ways that we can create those opportunities in our community. And I know that there is also an opportunity with the county EDA, and I think that's something that's been very underutilized in our county. So that is one area that I would really look at to try to, you know, provide opportunities for affordable housing and workforce housing.
All right, our next topic is on mental health. And Bill, we'll start with you on this one. Mental health issues are a major concern across the U.S. How will you ensure services will remain available to county residents, especially in the 3rd District?
You know, mental health is something that I think has been overlooked for many, many years, or shoved under the rug, whatever. And I think that's something that we really need to, you know, pay close attention to. And I know our Health and Human Services are working very hard to provide the services to our county residents. And I think we need to make sure that those resources are still available to everyone. And just find ways that we can, you know, create opportunities for those that are in need of those services within our county. I know Olmsted County provided a facility not too long ago where they actually built a facility over there, but unfortunately it's already full. It's full of Olmsted County residents, and we just need to find other opportunities. I know the jail is one opportunity that we could look at those, because a lot of the individuals that are in our jails are suffering from mental health issues. So how can we help those individuals so they don't reoffend? Because if we can do that, then we don't have to repeatedly house these criminals and repeatedly have to provide them services. So I think that that's something we really need to do. So.
Thank you. Next will be Pat.
Yes, mental health is going to be becoming a big thing, and it's actually going to get worse. And it's not just affecting, you know, young, old, it's affecting everybody. As times get tough, which, you know, this economy, it's going to tighten up. I mean, things are getting tight all the way around. You know, people aren't going to have ways to put food on the table. You know, it starts at home, it starts at the community, it starts at outreach programs, starts at church. You know, we need a place, outlet for these people they can go and feel invited in. You know, it might even be an employer. You know, talking with your employees. I mean, getting down on their level. I mean, because it is going to get tough in the next couple of years. You know, and we're going to see a big rise in it. So definitely, we need to have everybody needs to work together for different options, because we don't just have, you know, what the county offers. I mean, we're going to have so many people that are needing it. And you might have people in this room that need it, and you honestly don't know. I mean, it's just, I met a gal today, same situation, you know, lost her job, everything. You know, she needed somebody to talk to, you know, and just one of those things we've got to take care of.
Thank you. And Josh.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, another tough one. You know, there's a lot of stuff that gets passed down from the state, a lot of legislation that comes down, and the counties are forced to kind of carry these things out, even if it isn't necessarily pertinent or a major issue. And so it's vastly becoming one of the largest expenses in the county. And it's such a complex issue, from just your standard mental health issues all the way to our very valued veterans, and how do we take and help these people out. And we're seeing a large influx of these people ending up in the jails and prison systems. And, you know, attributing, you know, what attributes to that factor, I'm sure there's a plethora of different things, you know, drug use, depression, et cetera, et cetera. So it's something we definitely cannot discount. You know, my wife sees it. She works in the nursing home, and seeing the funding that's drying up for some of these things and lobbying back to the states. And so it affects all ages and genres. The real reality of it is we have to figure out how to start working with this from the very beginning. We have to figure out where it stems from. Otherwise it's going to continue to get worse. So I could go on about this for a while, but I have stopped.
Okay, thank you. Our next question has to do with a Winona County policy called the Respectful Workplace Policy. And the question is, do you believe the commissioners should follow the Respectful Workplace Policy? If so, how should it be enforced? And if not, why not? And we will be starting with you, Josh. Want me to repeat it?
Yeah, so the respectful workplace policy, you know, a lot of this is speculative in what you believe and how you see it, and what, you know, respect is actually, you know, it's what you determine or deem respect as. And I think it's up to a lot of different individuals to make their own choices as to what they do and how they see things. You know, it's such an interpretive thing, but obviously we need to be kind, and kind goes a long ways. And so at the end of the day, it's something that can't be dismissed. It's real, it's relevant, it's in our face, but at the same time, I think that's I had a little time left, or were you? I didn't. My microphone's in the way, so there we go. Yes, I can't always see it. That's why I got to peek around. Sorry. So yeah, that's a tough one. You know, obviously we have to be mindful of what's going on, and we need to make sure that people feel invited. So.
Thank you. Bill, that's for you, Bill.
I think that's easy for me. It's a definite yes. I mean, if we're expecting the employees of Winona County to have a respectful workplace, we as commissioners need to model that behavior. We're the role models. I mean, we're on TV. We're on in the presence of everyone. So, you know, first of all, you know, Josh is right. You know, you need to define, you know, what that means. But on the same token, you really need to follow that. I mean, if those are the rules and guidelines that you've set up as a respectful workplace, and you're expecting your employees to do that, then you really need to model that behavior as county commissioners. And I think that's very important that you do that. So.
All right. And Pat.
Yes, I believe we need to have respect at the county level, and you know, they get a lot of real tough, difficult decisions. The board brings them up. They need to all, you know, look at the pros and cons. Don't jump to conclusions. Work together and iron through some of these, you know, for their particular areas, because it just, I see some things come up, you know, where they don't get along. Yeah, it bothers me a little bit, but you know, it's at the county level. You know, they're out there. They need to have respect for one another, and you need respect in the workplace. I mean, you need to respect somebody's personal space. You know, you need to basically, I mean, respect is an earned thing. You know, it's not an entitlement. I mean, a lot of these people got to where they did in their job place because they were respected, went above and beyond, you know, their jobs and duty, you know, and I think we need to teach our younger generation what respect is and how it's earned, and, you know, for future generations, because a lot of them feel entitled.
All right, thank you. So now this is question 11, and I think this will be our last question for tonight. It's difficult to reach the Amish in Saratoga Township because so much information is online. How do you plan to ensure that they are aware of and comply with planning, zoning, and environmental controls? And Bill, we'll start with you on that one.
You know, I think that education goes a long way, and I think sometimes it's the personal visit. I know sometimes it's very hard to do, to have personal visits among our constituents, and it's so easy to say, it's online, go check it out, go download the form. But sometimes you just can't do that. Sometimes you need to provide that personal touch, and is that going to tax the resources of our staff at the county? It may do that. But I think it's very important that everybody follows the same rules and guidelines, and the only way that we can ensure that is to make sure that they actually know what those rules and guidelines are, because a lot of times they may not know that because they couldn't download that form, or they didn't see that new ordinance that was just published. So sometimes I think we just have to do it old-fashioned, and you just have to go back and provide education to the individuals on what needs to be followed. And one of the things that I've heard is that most of the time when people are educated, they do follow the rules. I mean, people don't intentionally want to break the rules, especially if they know what they are.
Thank you. Pat, you're next.
Well, when it comes to the Amish, a lot of people praise them for what they do. A lot of people are discouraged on some things that they do. The biggest thing that gets by is probably the housing. How can they put all these housing up in the Amish community? Well, they get a lot of their income off the farm. There's ways to skirt the policies that are out there. But a lot of it comes to education. I mean, I don't think anybody's out educating the Amish, telling the rights and the wrongs. They're kind of just doing what they want. It's easier to pay a fine than it is to get the permit to do it a lot of the times, and it just, they're paying the taxes just like everybody else here, but they're not asking, for anything back. They're paying for our schools, helping pay. They're not asking for anything back. They're paying taxes. A lot of people think, oh, they don't pay taxes. Yeah, they do. I know a lot of Amish. I know a lot of things. But if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. I mean, that's the way the community is, and it's not so much the older generation of them. It's the younger ones that are, coming and not following a lot of the rules, and that's why a lot of them have chose to break off and go to different areas. I mean, they're getting close, Spring Valley and a few different areas around.
Thank you. And Josh.
Good. I think we got a little sidetracked. What was the question? Because
Okay.
it was more
It's
towards
difficult-
communication, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. Well, here, I'll read it. It's difficult to reach the Amish in Saratoga Township because so much information is online. How do you plan to ensure that they are aware of and comply with planning, zoning, and environmental controls?
I think we have every cell phone for all the little huts they have and everybody that has it, so we'll probably just have to give them a call and let them know what's going on. They do actually communicate. They know how to communicate if they want to. We know most of the Amish. Years ago in the late 90s, I put just about every single bulk tank in when they made them go from cans to bulk tanks. And, they're personable people. You can go talk to them. The law is the law is the law. They have to follow the law just the same as anybody else needs to follow the law. And that's the reality of it. And they need to know what that law is. And so it is a difficult challenge because they do not have the mass streams of media and communications that we do, but they just communicate differently. But what needs to be communicated to them is that they have to follow the same rules that we do. And, they might not like that, but that is the law. And so they're good people, and I'm sure that there's some not so good ones, just like there's probably not some good Englishmen out here too, as they call us. So at the end of the day, we treat them like humans because they are humans, and we communicate with them the same way that we would communicate with anybody else, minus the mass media side of it. We get out there and go talk to them.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you. We're nearing the end of our forum, and at this point, we would like to ask each candidate to present a 1-minute closing remark. And right now, we will begin with Pat Heim. You have 1 minute.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and thank the League of Women Voters, the concerned citizens of St. Charles, and citizens of Winona County. I sure hope you guys get out there and vote. The biggest thing is getting out there and vote, knowing where to vote, when to vote, education. We need to just basically everybody gets out there and vote. Vote for the person that you want. Make sure it's the right choice. Make sure that you're going to vote for a county commissioner that's going to work for you guys. Make sure somebody's going to work full time for you guys. That can devote the hours out there. This is not a part-time job. This is a full-time job. Sure, you only get part-time wage, but it is a full-time job. I mean, whether you're taking phone calls, seeing the people, seeing the concerns, visiting these people, going out and seeing what the problems that are going on, and bring it back to the county board. I mean, you need to take your people and be their voice for them, because it's not getting heard right now. So please, people, I'd appreciate your vote. May 9th would be greatly appreciated. If you guys got questions or concerns, I'm an open book. You can reach me anytime.
Thank you.
I'd be more than happy to sit down with you.
Thank you. Josh, your closing remarks.
Thank you. Yeah, again, thank you, everybody, for coming out. Always interesting to hear different views and different thought processes. Yeah, it's amazing. You know, I kind of was thinking the other day, how many board meetings and county meetings and different things we've been to, and it's literally in the thousands. And it's, I never attended to even be up here. I had a lot of people ask me to sit in this position. I never had any intention to run for county commissioner, but I had a lot of people ask. And I think the big thing was being balanced and really understanding that I live in town, but yet I work in ag, but yet I have a business. And those three trifectas really are what District 3 is. And being able to understand those things and put them together and look at them in a conservative fashion that can best benefit everybody and balance out and work with our county board and help try to bring some continuity to that. And with facts more so than feelings. And that's kind of what I'm about. So I'll just thank everybody again.
Thank you. And Bill?
As we all have done, I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters, Winona, also the St. Charles Citizens Group that put this together, and all of you. I know you took time out of your evening to come and listen to the candidates here, and I think that's important to make that educated decision as we elect that new 3rd District County Commissioner. Priorities, I'm just going to kind of go through a few of them. Preserving the family farm, preserving natural resources, making sure that we have a sustainable levy. Those are all things that are very, very important to us. And I know that they're very important to you because one of the things that we're doing to create that sustainable levy is using your money. And we want to make sure that we are good stewards of that money. Just like the farmers are good stewards of our land, we want to be, as county commissioners, good stewards of the dollars that you provide through your taxes. So, I want to thank you. May 9th is a very important day for all three of us here, and we would appreciate you coming out to vote. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And we're at the end of our time for this forum. We would like to, thank all our candidates for a very informative event. The League of Women Voters would also like to thank our co-sponsor, the St. Charles Concerned Citizen Group. We would also like to thank HBC for taping this educational forum. Tonight is the only primary forum that we will hold for the Winona County 3rd District special election. This forum in its entirety will be made available for the public for viewing prior to the primary election on May 9th on the League of Women Voters Winona Facebook page by next week. From this special May election, the top 2 candidates will be on the general election ballot on August 8th, 2023. This individual will serve out the rest of former Commissioner Steve Jacobs' term. So watch for future local media and publicity and updates on all future forums. And we want to mention voter registration. If you need information on becoming a registered voter, call Winona County Auditor Treasurer, or you can go to the Minnesota Secretary of State's office. Absentee or early voting is taking place now at the Auditor Treasurer's office within the Winona County building at 202 West 3rd Street in Winona. Remember, Minnesota does have registration at the polls. If you are not registered to vote, you may register to vote at the polls. You can check Minnesota's Secretary of State's website on the process, as several items of identification must be provided on primary election day to the election judges, or ask us. We can help you out. The Minnesota League of Women Voters.org is also a website where you can also find some general information on general voter service. Please vote. The special primary election is Tuesday, May 9th, 2023, and the final election for this seat is on Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. At this time, Winona County does not have any other general election, which would be in November. so this is the only voting. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can check the Minnesota Secretary of State's website for polling locations, or you can call Winona County's Auditor Treasurer's Office. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you.